Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Shall we begin by singing together? Could we stand as we are willing and able?
Whoops. Thank you very much. Yes, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to First Unitarian Church of Portland. We're a multi-generational community that strives to put love at the center. Here we come together to tend our spirits, care for one another, and work for justice. Here, we work together to build the beloved community, and you are welcome. Whether you're feeling hopeful or weary, whether you're joining us for the first time or you've been coming for many years, whether you're here in the sanctuary today or joining us online, we're so glad you're here. If you're new among us, join us for a welcome circle after the service here in the North Gallery. I will be there to meet you and say hello and wish you welcome. And everyone is invited to social hour in Fuller Hall. That's immediately below this sanctuary after the service. Reverend Allison is visiting the learning community today. She's chatting with children and youth, as well as expressing gratitude for the work of our learning community teachers and volunteers. And a very special welcome this morning to members of the Cascade Ensemble of the Portland Gay Men's Chorus, who are offering music. We'll be hearing some of the pieces they will be offering at their annual holiday concert this next month. So in today's service, we'll have a bit of a holiday mashup on this Sunday before Thanksgiving. So welcome to our special guests. And I should note that Garrett Bond, our own Garrett Bond, conducts this group. So where are you, Garrett? Following the service, Bill Bateman is leading a tour of the original 1924 property. You can meet him in the Elliott Chapel at 12 o'clock noon today. And if you don't know where Elliott Chapel is, ask one of our friendly ushers or our greeters today and they'll help you find your way. Today feels like an especially important day to greet our neighbors, so let's do this. Reverend Tom will light our chalice this morning. So if you have a chalice or a candle at home, please light that now.
We are
Unitarian Universalists, we light this chalice in faith, in hope, and in love.
To call us together this morning, words from poet Mark Strand. Thank you, faithful things. Thank you, world, to know that the city is still there, that the woods are still there, and the houses, and the hum of traffic, and the slow cows grazing in the field, that the earth continues to turn, and time hasn't stopped, that we come back whole to suck the sweet morrow of day. Thank you, bright morning. Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning again. I'd just like to say thank you all very much for being here and for welcoming Cascade, the subgroup ensemble of the Portland Gay Men's Chorus, into this space. Over the course of the service, we'll have 4 pieces, and I'd selfishly like to take a moment to just describe those. The first one is from our holiday set. You see the text up on your screen there. Le Marche des Rois. It is the March of the Kings. It may be biblical in nature, but it is the original melody of Farandole, for those folks who know. The second piece we'll be doing is much more universal. It's entitled Merry Everything by a local Portland composer, Ernly Jo, that says, you know, there are many holidays that happen around this time, and that can often be polarizing, but whatever it is that you feel, whatever it is that you celebrate or you believe in, merry everything, be joyous together, and finding that way of community. Yes, yeah. The third piece later in the service is Jul, jul, strålande jul, a Swedish carol that speaks not only of the beauty of Christmas and the beauty of winter, but also the darkness and the cold. Very Scandinavian text, yeah. Where it is beautiful, but to everything that has beauty, there's also a balance. And then our final piece is a version of a bit more jazzy version of Jingle Bells, Jingle bells, Frank Sinatra. You might find it familiar. Thank you all for having us here today. And here is March of the Kings.
De trois grands rois qui emmenaient en voyages. J'ai rencontré le train de trois grands rois sous les grands chemins. Tout chargé d'or, les suivaient d'abord. Des grands guerriers et les gardes du trésor. Tout chargé d'or, les suivaient d'abord. Des grands guerriers avec le bouclier. Matin, je rencontrais le train de trois grands rois qui allaient en voyage. Je rencontrais le train de trois grands rois sur les grands chemins. Tout chargé d'or, les suivaient d'abord. De grands guerriers, les gardes du trésor. Tout chargé d'or, les suivaient d'abord. De grands guerriers avec le bouclier.
Would you rise in body and in spirit and join me in our responsive reading today? It's by Wisława Szymborska. Life is the only way. Life is the only way to get covered in leaves, catch your breath on the sand, rise on wings, to be a dog or stroke its warm fur, to tell pain from everything it's not, to squeeze inside events, dawdle in views, to seek the least of all possible mistakes. An extraordinary chance to remember for a moment a conversation held with the lamp switched off, and if only once, to stumble on a stone, end up drenched in one downpour or another. Mislay your keys in the grass, and to follow a spark on the wind with your eyes, and to keep on not knowing something important. Let's sing together now our doxology, Spirit of Life.
For the month of November, we share our plate with Emerge, Oregon's interfaith movement for immigrant justice. Its mission is to support and equip communities and people of faith to advance immigrant justice through direct accompaniment of immigrants facing detention and deportation, policy advocacy at local, state, and national levels, and purposeful organizing. First Unitarian's Immigrant Justice Action Group has been a close partner of Emerge for 10 years, and we are grateful for their ongoing interfaith organizing. I wanted to note that the QR code will not be on the screen today, but you can find one in one of the pockets behind in the pews, and also the tiny URL. So, thank you.
Winter solstice, and many more that I could mention. All these different customs and all these different gods. If faith is the path to love and kindness, why are we all at odds? I'm not sure what you believe. Everything
We have a few parish concerns this morning. David Clark Beach, brother of member Robin Beach Lindsley, died on Tuesday, November 19th, after a long illness. He was 80 years old. David grew up here in the church and was active in liberal religious youth. Besides Robin, David leaves a wife and daughter, and we hold them all at this time. Member Vicki Flommer is having a second heart ablation procedure this coming Tuesday, November 26th. She asks that we hold her throughout the coming days for successful outcomes in the months ahead and for healing. And we hold member Mary Post as she prepares for an upcoming surgery, uncertain of what the outcome might be. We make space each week to name milestones in our lives and in our congregation. A reminder that pastoral support is available from our ministers and our lay ministers here in the church. Each week you can light a candle of intention in one of our galleries. You can also offer prayer intentions to be held up by our ministers and lay ministers throughout the week. You can write those down and use the urns in the side galleries, or you can send them to prayer@firstunitarianportland.org. Join me in a prayer. As we gather today in gratitude this season, we pause to reflect on the abundance of life. May we honor the earth that sustains us, the community that supports us, and the love that binds us together. Let us give thanks for the diverse paths we walk, for the wisdom shared across the cultures and beliefs, and for the moments of joy and connection that remind us of our shared humanity. In this spirit of gratitude, may we open our hearts to compassion, extend our hands to those in need, and strive for justice and peace in the world. Together, let's celebrate the gift of each day, embracing hope and possibility as we nurture a brighter future for all. May it be so. Let's sit in silent meditation. We can remain seated as we sing the hymn, Heap High the Farmer's Wintry Hoard. A reading by Joy Harjo. Join the world, Once the world was perfect, and we were happy in that world. Then we took it for granted. Discontent began a rumble in the earthly mind. Then doubt pushed through with its spiked head. And once doubt ruptured the webs, all manner of demon thoughts jumped through. We destroyed the world we had been given for inspiration and for life. Each stone of jealousy, each stone of fear, greed, envy, and hatred put out that light. No one was without a stone in their hand. There we were, right back where we had started. We were bumping into each other in the dark. And now we had no place to live, since we didn't know how to live with each other. Then one of the stumbling ones took pity on another one and shared a blanket. A spark of kindness made a light. The light made an opening in the darkness, and everyone worked together to build a ladder. A Wind Clan person climbed out to be the first in the next world, and then the other clans, the children, those clans and their children all the way through time, and now into this morning, the light to you.
glanze veritas cugat, himmelens crunur ignis grandelius, glimande vocari alla virtues, songs in fronti til tid, eviga längtan till ljus och frid. Jul, jul, strålande jul, glans över vitas skugga. Kom, kom, signade jul, sänk dina vita vingar över stridernas blåd och larm, över all suckan människobarn, över de släkten som går till ro, över de ungas skakande bo. Kom, kom, signade jul, sänk dina vita vingar.
So, friends, here we are once again in the holiday season. If you didn't know it before, after the music today, you will. This week, of course, is Thanksgiving, and as our music today reminds us, Christmas, Advent, the solstice, Hanukkah, they are all not far away. And what I've come to learn through the years that in this season, with all of those holidays, can be a pretty complicated time. These are times of light and festivity, times of rich food and indulgence, times of joy and happiness, but also in the mix can be sorrow and sadness and sometimes even despair. It's not a surprise that these holidays line up in this season as the earth follows its pattern around the sun, meaning shorter days and longer nights. The earth invites us to turn inward, to take in the dark and respond with joy and with light. But with all of that comes a certain paradox of this time as well. What I've come to learn is that everything in this season seems to be heightened. Those who are up are usually up, are more up. Those who tend to be down are even more down. At the same time that we carry with us those images of loved ones around the table, the reality may be that we are most aware when we are not with those we'd like to have at the table or who were once there with us. The complications of family estrangements, the ones who are welcome and the ones who are not welcome. Or maybe it's the tension with those we are with there at the table. For some, the holidays are not at all a time to celebrate as much as a time to make our way through. And this year, there is also once again the state of our world, particularly in light of the elections earlier this month. This year, we're aware of those who are most vulnerable, those whose access to basic medical care is now in jeopardy, those for whom simply being who they are makes them the target of bullies and tyrants, those who simply want a safe place to live and to simply have a place to be who they are. In this land of plenty, we're all the more aware of those who don't have nearly enough, those may or may not be conversations that we want to touch upon at the dinner table this week. And with all of this comes layers of fear and anger. With all of this comes layers sometimes of hatred and cruelty. With all of this can come feelings of isolation and despair. Even for those of us who are relatively privileged, there can be a sense of scarcity, not a sense of plenty. That's what prevails. That can become our dominant story. No, friends, there is much to trouble in these times. There is a lot to hold. So all of that brings us to this morning's theme of gratitude. Now, gratitude. I've come to believe that gratitude is indeed a very important practice all through the year, but perhaps it's in this season when we're most asked to revisit just how important it is in our lives. Gratitude is, I think, one of the primary elements of a spiritual life. The Hebrew term for gratitude means recognizing the good. Practicing gratitude is about recognizing what is good in our lives, even when we may be facing our share of things that don't feel so good. Times like these, in fact, may be the very times when we need to lean into that sense of gratitude, reminding ourselves of what it is we have, the ways that our lives are blessed, and what all of that asks of us. The theologian brother David Steindl-Rast says that if you can only offer one prayer, that prayer should first of all be a prayer of gratitude, that we should first of all make a practice of simply saying thank you and being present. I believe that it's through that expression of gratitude that we acknowledge our relationship with everything larger, with the creation that does include each and every one of us. Acknowledging what it is we have to be grateful for is perhaps one of the most important, one of the most essential things that we can do. And yes, maybe most of all in the midst of our troubled world, maybe that's when we're asked to make a practice of gratitude. It may help us be in the present moment. So what would that practice of gratitude look like? Something we do regularly as a way of staying in touch with ourselves, with those around us, and with whatever it is we might identify as something greater. It's in the very nature of being a practice that we're able to find our way, no matter what it is that might be before us. Because sometimes there are just things that we need to do with intention. There are some things we need to be reminded of on a regular basis, of how everything is so very connected, how we're dependent on one another, and that others are dependent on us. Galen Gingrich, the minister of All Souls Unitarian in New York, describes it this way. He says, gratitude has its basis in our awareness of all the things that we have come our way, the people and the world around us. We begin with this inescapable reality. We are contingent creatures. We depend on our environment for everything we need. We depend on the largesse of the natural world for our very existence. And we depend on the people around us for the quality of our ongoing lives. Without the natural world, we wouldn't have air to breathe, water to drink, or food to eat. We are contingent creatures. We are individuals, yes, but our individual lives exist in some larger context, that we are contingent on other beings. And perhaps the spiritual task begins there, in that recognition of that interdependence. It begins with the recognition that we as individuals really don't amount to much outside of the relationships we have with families and with communities, sometimes with people we don't even know. Whether we know someone or not, we are connected. Our lives are utterly dependent on our good green earth. How does that food come to be at our tables? Who are the people whose labor makes that so? What does it mean for the earth and its resources? What is it that we need to live? And what is it that makes all of that possible? How is it that we're asked to live in a world that so often wants us to see ourselves not as connected with others, but in opposition to others? What is ours and what is someone else's? Is there a limited supply of whatever it is? So what does that mean for our story as we tell it? How are we asked to live? A practice of gratitude asks us to see our world through a certain lens. With that comes not only the recognition of the responsibility to act out of the awareness of that relationship with others and with the earth. It isn't just about us, in other words. What are the choices we make, and what do those choices mean for others and for the earth? What is the responsibility that flows out of our interdependence, that sense of gratitude? In her book, Braiding Sweetgrass, Robin Wall Kimmerer talks about the idea of an honorable harvest. In the Native American tradition, she articulates rules that have come to shape our relationship with the natural world, and also rules that ask us to rein in our tendency to consume, that the world might be as rich for the seventh generation as it is for our own. Kimmerer notes that the details of what those rules are will vary from one culture to another, from one place to another. In her book, she offers what she sees as some of the common themes that emerge. She says they might look something like this. Know the ways of the ones who take care of you, so that you may take care of them. Introduce yourself. Be accountable as the one who comes asking for life. Ask permission before taking. Abide by the answer. Never take first. Never take the last. Take only what you need. Take only that which is given. Never take more than half. Leave some for others. Harvest in a way that minimizes harm. Use it respectfully. Never waste what you have taken. Share. Give thanks for what you have been given. Give a gift in reciprocity for what you have taken. Sustain the one who will sustain you, and the earth may last forever. Now, there's probably a sermon to be preached based on each and every one of those, I think. In the book, Kimmerer gives the example of searching for wild leeks in the forest as she prepares a special meal when her daughters will visit. The leeks are a way for her to help her daughters reconnect with the earth and to their sense of home and place. As she looks through the woods, she reminds herself that you don't take the first one or the last one. She reminds herself to handle them with great care. How at the end, when you have leeks you haven't used, to take them to the place in the forest where they used to grow, but where they no longer live. You take those leeks you haven't used and you plant them where they grow and where they will someday be there for someone else. Now, in our world, it's hard to know where much of our food comes from. In our world, so much of what we have around us comes through some global supply chain that we have been hearing more about in these recent years. It's hard, almost impossible, to get to a place of being able to imagine where any given thing came from and the people who made it and sacrificed so that it could come to us, often at the priority of a low cost. It can be almost impossible to imagine the toll that any given thing has on the earth or on others. There is much that would make us mindful about where so much of what we come to have in our lives, it's almost impossible to know where. And so much that we take for granted, so much that impacts all the dimensions of our lives. But a spiritual practice of gratitude might begin with asking important questions about how it is we need, what it is we need, and what it is we don't need, or the sacrifices that have been asked of others for what we have, to at least make space for the story that we may not be able to know it all, but still for us to also ask at least the questions. That is the starting point. A spiritual practice might be a kind of discipline. It asks us to stay with it even when we may be uncomfortable or the answers may not always be clear, what's being asked of us. It asks for a kind of discipline for us to remind ourselves of our interdependence. But it's also through that discipline that we may come to recognize all the things we do have to be grateful for, all the things that bring us joy, like when we get covered in leaves, or when we are with a dog, or when we get caught in a downpour. And this week, that may have happened to most of us. Whatever it is that helps us to see ourselves, to recognize that we are all part of life, to take any given event in context, to take nothing at all for granted. It may begin with that simple pause that comes when we do sit down for a meal together. It may be the willingness to pause and notice the sunset or the sunrise. It may be taking a moment to stop and just notice the rise in frustration or that welling up of grief for so much that seems to be broken, and for our own sense of helplessness about what it is we can do. It may be taking a breath and making enough space to imagine all the steps, all the people, all the processes that make our lives what they are, for good or for ill, to recognize all we know and notice all we can't possibly know, to recognize the mystery, to recognize that it calls for a certain humility, for making space to ask ourselves, just how then are we being asked to live? Words again of poet Joy Harjo. Then one of the stumbling ones took pity on another and shared a blanket. A spark of kindness made a light. The light made an opening in the darkness. Everyone worked together and made a ladder. A Wind Clan person climbed out first into the next world, and then the other clans, the children of those clans, their children, and their children, all the way through time to now, into this morning light, to you. From an early age, we are taught to say please and thank you. Those lessons probably at first are just about good manners, but I think as we go through life, they may be at least the beginning of that practice of gratitude, of noticing, of paying attention. And practice is important in these days. There is much in the world to hold, we all know, and much in the world that asks us to show up first and then to ask how it is we are called to respond, to ask ourselves, how is it that I am to be in relationship with myself, with others, and with the world around me? What is my story, and how is it part of some much larger story? What are the choices I have before me, and how is it that I do choose to live? In this season of blessings and challenges, in this season of light and dark, in this season of hope and despair, may we find ourselves grounded in that present with all of its brokenness and all of its beauty as well. May we find our way to those answers, or at least the beginning of the answers, as we learn to live, first of all, with the questions that life brings to us. Through it all, may we live with open and thankful hearts. and may that gratitude be a gateway to the ever-widening circles of love and hope and joy in these holidays to come and in all of our days. May this be so for us today. Amen. Will you pray with me now? God of mystery and wonder, God of hope and joy, God of uncertainty and loss, help us as we find our way. Remind us to breathe. Remind us to pay attention. Remind us to give thanks for all the blessings we know, for the voices of children, for the wisdom of elders, for the love that comes our way in unexpected moments. Even in the midst of disruption, may the gratitude we know ground us and sustain us. May it help us to recognize our interdependence, that we need others and that others need us too. Help us to open ourselves to all that life offers us. Help us to say thank you over and over again. Amen. Let's sing together now a traditional Thanksgiving carol. We sing now together. Let's rise in body and in spirit. Into this season, remember you are blessed. And remember, too, that you are a blessing. May you use your gifts to bless the world. This is the day we have been given. Let us rejoice in it and be glad. Go in peace. Practice love. Amen.
1, 2, 3.
Jing, jing, a jing, a jing, 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 a jing, a jing, 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 a jing, a jing, jing. I love those Jingle bells. Bong goes holiday, Jingle bells. Bong, those happy Jingle-bells. I love those Jingle bells. Bong, jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Dashing through the snow in a one-horse open sleigh. O'er the fields we go, laughing all the way. Bells on bobtail rings, making our spirits bright. What fun it is to ride and sing a sleighing song tonight. Oh, fa la la, fa la la, fa la la la. Oh, what fun it is to ride in a fa la 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 sleigh. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride a one-horse open sleigh today. Jing, 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 ba-do-do, jing, 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 ba-do-day, jing, 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 ba-do-do, jing, 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 ba-do-day. Bells on bobtail rings, making our spirits bright. What fun it is to ride and sing a sleighing song tonight. I love those Jingle bells. Bong, those happy Jingle bells. Bong, those happy Jingle-bells. I love those Jingle bells.